All right, our final panel of the day. Last but not least, we may have even saved the best for last. All these people have built beautiful cannabis companies that have stood the test of time. And the panel is building a cannabis company with lasting value. And that's important, right? Yeah. Let's hear it for long-term thinking. To lead us in this, my man, you know him, you love him, the equity partner at Hybrid Pharma. He's a cannabis education and medical partnerships master at Loose Brands, and he's here for you today. Give it up for Alex Revich!
Thank you. Hello, good thing on. Thank you so much, and God, you should know me better by now. I've done so many of these panels that you would think you'd know my intro by better. Oh, don't get me singing with you. Anyways, thank you so much for coming. This is a very important panel. I've done a few different panels, but truly, I believe this is one of the most important panels that I've been a part of because it's about scaling your business. And scaling your business is so important, and as I was explaining to someone why they want to come to this 450 show instead of going to smoke at 420, thank you, by the way, for coming back, is that if you have a business and you don't think about scaling, it's literally just a job. If you're lucky, you'll make $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. You know, and that's not bad at all, but it's barely a business. A real business is scalable and looks to the international market to make a lot of money. I mean, and that's what I think about business, and that's what a lot of ICBC people want to know about. So I'm here with these awesome panelists. I'll let them introduce themselves, then I'll introduce myself, and then we'll jump into this topic, and I'll definitely leave some time for questions, because I'm sure there will be some. So, Alexandre, kick us up.
Hi, so my name is Alexandre Gauthier. I'm the VP of Research and Development at Origin Nature. Origin Nature got licensed in 2020. We expanded to the bowler capacity. We're now at 8.5 ton. We sell in Germany, in Australia, and in Canada. We've been named Canada Top Grower 2023 and 2024. We've been lucky enough to be profitable since our first quarter with the license. So we've been profitable for the last 4 years also.
I'm George Cherry. I'm the Executive Vice President of RadSource Technologies. We focus on the cannabis sector as well as many other sectors. We won Best Lab Equipment from Canada, two awards in 2022. And I think we're up for another award this year as well. We've scaled as well.
Oh, we got award winners. Nice.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Leith, and I'm from the Osmedican Group, OMG for short. And the Osmedican Group is a biotech company, laser-focused in drug development and clinical evidence. So we have a number of key products which are going through clinical trials now in Australia.
Very cool. Brian?
My name is Brian Staff. I'm the co-founder of Align Ops Group, and what we do is help companies set themselves up for success long-term by helping them scale and set their operations up from the beginning. And then also in the States, there's a lot of distressed assets, and I work to help turn those around, myself and a team of 16. And in the past, scaling-wise, I've worked with a lot of the largest companies throughout North America that have scaled both successfully and unsuccessfully, and got to see what worked and what hasn't, and was able to grow my first consulting firm and sell it to one of the big MSOs. So we're scaling and growing again now.
All right, very cool. Round of applause for these awesome panelists. We're very lucky to have such experience on the stage with us. And I'm Alex Revich. I helped the first ICBC back in 2017. It's so amazing to see how big it's grown. And I've been coming back every year. I'm in Canada. My day job when I'm not doing ICBC is I have Loose Brands. We're an edibles contract manufacturer with about 80 products in the market. And I have a pharmacy called Hybrid Farm, which has medical cannabis and pharmaceuticals. So that's me, and really excited to do this topic with you all. And I never really like to start with anything negative at the beginning of a panel, but people were really asking me a lot about, you know, why this is so important, this panel. And we talked about all these crazy negative stories of what people have done in the past. So we were laughing backstage about some of these examples of these people who have done bad scaling, whether scale too fast, scale too slow. So maybe let's start with a few examples of why this is such an important topic, to give an example of what kind of disaster can happen if you don't plan for scaling.
So I think Canada is riddled with example. You have to know that 95% of companies in Canada are not profitable. Selling at a loss is definitely not something anybody should be striving for. And of course, all your favorite names are there. Aurora, Canopy, Tilray, EXO, all the big ones. We firmly believe that none of those scaling up were good. I mean, a lot of those companies at first had a mandate of scaling as fast as possible, and we'll see later what we do with it. Well, you saw what happened. Most of those companies don't even grow in Canada anymore. They now contract grow.
Yeah, I've seen in the States, and you're looking at a person that's been in hundreds of grows. You go in, hey, I've got this great plan. I'm gonna do 24 acres under glass, and I'm gonna flood the market with flower. And then you say, okay, how sustainable is that? Because right now you're getting X amount per pound wholesale, and then when you go in and you pull this flower on the market, it's going to drop the price. So it's just a never-ending. Then the price goes down, it goes down, it goes down, and to the point where now you've priced yourself out of the market by flooding the market. So you got to you got to really understand your market and the strategy, and you got to understand what parts to accelerate and what parts to decelerate. So that's what I've seen as a big issue with people.
Good point. Well, John?
And I think good on them for giving it a go to scale. Clearly it's because they use someone else's money, because otherwise you wouldn't do it. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, can you sell what you're actually producing? Now, back in the days when it was just starting, it was very obvious and transparent from a regulatory perspective that it wasn't a case of build it and they will come, because no one's going to come if you can't sell stuff that you actually grow. So I was very perplexed early on looking at this cost of the scale to do the business and what they could actually essentially generate as revenue. And the revenue from my analysis was negligent, because what they hadn't surprisingly taken into consideration is the fact that the regulatory framework doesn't allow Australia to grow cannabis and sell it just to anybody in different parts of the world. Obviously, we all know here we're very educated in this space, but for some reason, I don't think anyone really took that into account and therefore got a bit overzealous. Build it, they will come and we will sell it. Interestingly now, those companies are complaining about imports because they're saying we can't make any money. Well, of course, they can't make any money, because you can't make money if you're going to grow something that costs you $10 if you can buy it for $2. It's a commodity. So I say good on you for giving it a go. They've done an awful lot of heavy lifting. But for any company that wants to drive innovation, I would suggest that what you would do is you'd identify what the disease state is that you want to focus on, and then you would tinker around what ingredients and incipients, whether CBD or THC, might address that market. You then take that product from your lab and you go through the various clinical trials to get it to the point of on shelf. Yeah. So scale is all about having the right evidence-based paperwork to be able to sell a product worldwide. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a complex market. There's different regulations in different markets. If you think about what GW did with their Epidiolex, they focused on registering a medicine, and that's why they can actually be recognized worldwide as a registered medicine.
And it's important what you said also about the investment. I like to joke, if you wouldn't use your children's college fund money on it, don't do it. Just because investors are giving you money now, I can tell you that ship does not last for a long time. And then when it stops coming, you're out of luck. Brian, what do you think?
I mean, I'll tie into that, which is the investment may be here now, and there may be ample funds to be able to find in this market today. But I could speak from experience in other markets where, as the industry evolves, if you're not returning for your investors because you have not scaled properly or have not built the business properly, that investment will dry up quickly, which makes it exponentially more difficult to achieve your goals.
Yeah, and we're going to jump a little more into investment later on because that's such an important part of this, and we'll talk about it in a moment. But you know, since we start off with something negative and all these disaster stories of what happens if you don't plan to scale, let's talk about some examples of people who have scaled. I know you have some of your own examples, and don't be shy to talk about them. But you know, let's talk about who's done it right, because some people have done it right. Not many, but some.
So I'm a little bit biased, but I'm going to name us, Origin Nature, of course. Our vision was really crawl, walk, run. So cannabis, you need to understand, is the most well-established black market industry in the world. You know, there wasn't really ever an oversupply in Canada. There was big companies that grew a bunch of shit weed that they couldn't sell at the price they produced it at, and so they placed it as overproduction because that's what they had to say. We first started by meeting the first demand that was there in front of us. So we went to see the SQDC, which is the government controlled Quebec, and the distribution. So we asked them, what do you want? We want a sativa, $5. Perfect. We're going to build that. Once we met that demand, and we were able to grow a live plant consistently, whether it was from the flower aspect, the cannabinoid aspect, and we were able to build some brand recognition, that's when we decided to go ahead. We also, by that time, it was a project that started with $6.6 million, and we did a dividend payout of $1.5 million after 18 months. So we did secure an investors before actually moving ahead and expanding. When we did that expansion, we didn't also place all our eggs in the same basket. We right away decided to go to Germany, to go to Australia, contract growing also. We didn't just assume that everything we were going to produce was going to go to the rec market like before. So we made sure to diversify, always have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, because things fall out really quickly in the cannabis industry. So we really took our time to crawl, walk, run. Another good expansion is the one that Canada did in Quebec. So if you don't know, T-God liked to invest a lot of money in super impressive greenhouses. One, I think they did 60 million. Canada got it back for 12 million. They didn't turn back on the entire facility when they got it. They're renting a lot of it to other people. They turned on little section per little section as they were rolling out their product throughout Canada, because you don't grow weed that you haven't sold yet. And so that's a very good rollout from Canara with a gigantic facility that a lot of other companies that were mentioned before would try to just put in full-blown activity, like let's say a site in Edmonton that was called Sky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's many Canadian examples of that, but we won't get into that. George, with some good examples.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of them. I mean, there's an outfit out in Las Vegas called Shango. What I really appreciate about what they did was they had a plan. They said, this is where we're going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They stuck to their plan. They had a building that was too big for what they needed, but they didn't fill it up with other stuff. They said, okay, this is going to be future growth, this is going to be future growth. So really the only thing that they were stuck on was real estate, right? So they didn't buy a bunch of extra equipment, they didn't buy a bunch of extra grow rooms. They sold vertically within their own dispensary. And then I also see it with some of the big MSOs in the U.S. as opposed to some of the stuff that we saw up in Canada as well. You know, the Air, Liberty, Cresco, Curaleaf. These are some. They have a lot of people that are looking. The Cannabis, which used to be what was the Cannabis called before? They're big. I forgot the name, but they're huge. Yeah. You know who they were?
Who's called what?
The Cannabis. They're called the Cannabis. No, Cannabis now.
Acreage.
Yeah.
Acreage Holdings.
Yeah. So, but they have good plans, and I always find that the people with the right plans, with the good plans, that follow the plan. You know, hey, by the way, you know, look at this bubble hash, or look at, you know, we want to do this other product over here. Follow the plan, because if you're thinking that you're going to do it, there's already 12 other people out there thinking they're going to do it.
But
How much do you think that people are going to buy? How many people are going to buy it, guys? You know, and know your audience. The other thing I see is, you know, people that know who their buyers are, because somebody said it earlier, but you have, you know, somebody goes out there and says, yeah, I grow a ton a month. I'm like, great. Well, where do you sell that? Well, we use half of it ourselves, and then we're going to export it to freaking Antarctica. And it's like, okay, do you have a distribution network set up? Because not only have I heard that from you, I've heard that from the last 20 people I've talked to. Everybody's going to sell, flour in Germany. Everybody's going to sell flour in Malta. Everybody's in. So you really got to understand your market of what you're going to sell, because you might think you're going to sell a ton a month and you're not.
By the way,
maybe you are.
I have to use a quote to something you just said. Mike Tyson. I have to quote Mike Tyson to say, "Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face." I don't know if anyone knows that line, but that actually works in the cannabis industry completely. Like, so you have a plan, but then you get punched in the face by the regulations or something else, or the bank or whatever, and then sometimes you got to pivot. But fair point. What else do you guys think?
I agree 100%.
Some good examples, yeah.
Very good. Well. Yeah, and I agree in terms of, and in my introduction earlier I mentioned that we're laser focused. That's the reason. And like that, I've actually experienced a lot of different companies going, oh, it's COVID, let's do this. Oh, it's that, let's do that. So they keep jumping all over the place. So I think for me, it's a bit different in terms of what I see as success, because I'm not looking at it from a, how do we sell flour, or how do we manufacture stuff, or how do we grow stuff, because we're about drug development. So the companies that we look at in terms of the ones that are exceptional or doing it at scale are companies like GW Pharma that have spent the time to invest in the clinical data, getting the results that is required to get registration, and then investing in that registration. And of course that worked out very well for them, as we all know, because as soon as that one product was registered, they sold for $7.8 billion to Jazz Pharmaceuticals. So from our point of view, we've been laser focused from the beginning. It's very much on that pathway. It's about what products, what indication, and what can we realistically register. In terms of the cannabis in general, I think that I would say to everyone here, it's very important, of course, cash flow. We all need a bit of cash flow. So for us, for example, at OMG, we have 2 divisions. I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to give you a bit of an idea as to in terms of the strategy. One of them is a division that we can sell products over the counter. I won't get into the details. And that early stage, that allowed us early stage revenue, quite significant and enough that we could invest that money straight into the clinical trial, which means that as a company, we're not out looking for investors. We're not scratching around trying to get a dollar here or a dollar there. We're very focused. We had the budget when we started, and we're going down that pathway. So any company that puts in the time and the hard yards and the money, because it's not for the faint-hearted, is about gathering the evidence so that they can have a product that worldwide can be sold.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Brian?
Sure. To give you 2 examples, both of these from the States, of companies that were successful in scaling. One brand called Wild, W-Y-L-D, and the other called Wana, W-A-N-A, both gummies, edibles brands. To me, their success has been dictated by 2 things. They've stayed very asset light, where they proved their model in one market and then took that model and licensed it to many other markets. And didn't go through all of the capital expenditures of building their own facility in every individual market. They took their IP, made sure that it was easily repeatable, and placed it wherever they could, and managed the quality control through those agreements. If you can stay asset light, it's going to make scaling much easier, because you won't need as much investment, obviously.
No, that's an excellent point. And one thing I've heard from all 4 of you, I think that's really important, is the importance of being focused, but also having a business that funds your business. Like, it's nice to have big plans and innovative and be a dreamer. I mean, yeah, we need that. In the cannabis, we're always pushing the boundaries. But you also need a business. Like at Loosh, we also do contract manufacturing. We make products for some of the biggest companies in Canada. We don't make a lot of money on it. It's a volume thing, but it keeps the lights on so that we can actually have some of our own brands and try to do innovation. And I think I heard that from all four of you, you know, much like in California, which people think is an awesome market. You go to LA and you're like, wow, this is the best market I've ever seen. But then you actually talk to the business owners who own the businesses, and they're dying. They're not making money. And I said, how is that possible? The ones that survive are finding other ways to make money, which I won't say up here on the stage, but you got to find ways to make money to fund your dreams and hopes. But you know, as we're looking at funding, you know, this is such an important part, and me and Brian were talking about this before, and a few of us backstage. It's nice to have these dreams, but if no one's funding these dreams, they're just going to be dreams. And if you think they're going to be funded later, like, hey, let's just get started and we'll find the funding later. I've seen many shuttered down facilities. We were talking an example, you were saying the Canara example, how they bought over a facility of a bankrupt company. That's a good strategy, because that other company didn't plan for funding. Maybe, Brian, if you want to start off, you have a lot of experience with this. How important is funding, and what kind of advice can you give these people when it comes to that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, something I like to say is that funding is the fuel that really lights the fire. Without it, you have no fire, your business goes out. Number one thing that I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years, the big difference from, say, 5 to 10 years ago, is that everyone is focused tremendously on EBITDA. Are we making money? Can we make money? And so in order to illustrate that, I emphasize the importance of having a business model, a financial model that's, you know, on paper that actually withstands practical experience. Years ago, say 2012 to 2018, most models were based on, I mean, hopes and dreams that didn't come to fruition. Often the business model was showing a relatively steady line of wholesale pricing for all of the product, which, as we all understand, supply and demand, as that market saturates, that price craters, which makes everything more difficult and makes the model now fail. So what the best way is to be able to show that model can work with practical knowledge, showing some commonalities between markets. Every market's going to be independent, whether we're talking Germany or and other European countries, Canada, or any other state in the US. Everything's going to be a little bit different, but they all follow a very similar path where prices are very high early on, and you can take that extra margin, reinvest in your business. Like we're saying, if your business can't continue to fuel your business, you will again run out of fuel. But really, if we can, just lost that train of thought.
Okay.
Because you said bless you in your mind, I also do that. If I always say bless you, but no, those are some really good points, George. I know you, I'm sure, have some thoughts on funding and investing, like making sure you're well funded. And John, we were talking backstage. How important is being well funded and having the right investors in this?
Well, I don't know, because I haven't got any.
Okay. So maybe, what's your secret?
And the reason is be deliberate, because I believe, just like you said, if you don't spend your grandchildren's, whatever it is, inheritance or whatever, you're not going to put your own money in, then you're buggered. So Scottish people tend to shove their own money in, make it work, build it, tweak it, build value, and then we can talk about investor opportunity. But until there's value, I wouldn't invest in a company that I didn't see an end result. So in actual fact, my desire was to invest in a company. That's all I wanted to do, because of all of the stuff that, and I won't bore you with the details, but very exciting market. But interestingly, when I went and met people all over the world, it was wonderfully exciting, their decks and their positioning, and they were going to make gazillions of money. But when you start to ask them questions around, well, who are you selling it to?
Yeah.
It's like, well, anybody can buy it. We'll sell it to anybody. You know, everybody's going to want it. But of course, we know this is medicine, and I'm talking about it from a medicinal perspective. So it's not as easy just to sell stuff. So we were very deliberate not to go out and to raise funds until we actually gathered the evidence, created and developed our own products, not white-labeled products, and we actually started selling them. So obviously we were 6 years in that development stage, and for the last years we've launched worldwide with our products. So in terms of the going out and talking about investment, it's not something that we are actively looking at now. Now, the group CEO is in the room somewhere. He's probably got a different perspective in terms of the future.
Right. The CEO is usually the one that has to worry about that.
He'll be worried about that. He's telling me that he'll probably have a different view on that. But for us, and for me, I will only invest in something if I can see something that is going to give. I like a bit of blue sky, don't get me wrong, but I need to see something. What is it that you're going to have? If it's a CBD product, then it has to be different from any other CBD product. Well, if you can't make it different, then what viable product have you got that you're going to generate revenue from? Because if everybody's got a CBD product and it's CBD or THC, what makes it different? Then we get into the price to the bottom. So for us, it's more important to build the value so that investors will come. We don't want to have to go out and start spooking. We want to say, look at what we've done. Is this something that you feel will value? And would that resonate to your investment strategy? Then we can have a discussion.
Right, and yeah.
But not with me, because I can't talk about money with anybody. But we can talk to the group CEO if there's anybody of any interest in that front.
Yeah, and I'm sure he would have a different perspective of it. And we were talking with Brian also around the importance of complacency and not being complacent, and how complacency can kill you. Like, you're in a great position, you're a leader, everyone's giving you money. You be careful, because someone's coming after that very quickly, and you can change. You know, I remember I was here a few years ago, and someone asked a question, what's the number one piece of advice you would give someone to get for the cannabis industry? I was like, whoa, it's a lot of pressure. I have like literally 1 minute to answer a question. And I said, be careful who you get your money from. When you get investment, don't just be excited that someone wants to invest in your company. Like, someone might want to invest in your company, and that's going to destroy you, because the wrong investor is going to whip you and make you rush, and all of a sudden you're tripping on yourself and you're not executing your plan the way you thought you were, and boom, you've actually lost your whole business because you took the wrong investor on. So Brian, what do you think about that? I'm sure you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I was just going to add that cannabis is so unique, and again, you know, market by market, it's so unique that you need an investor that has an open mind so that they're not forcing your hand. There are so many situations that come up where a regulation changes, or perhaps we're doing it this way in one market, but the regulations force us to do it that way in another. In a lot of scenarios, an uninformed investor, the wrong investor, doesn't fully understand the true length of time that it's going to take to execute on that change or that idea, and creates a false pressure that then forces decisions that hinder the business long term.
Yeah, or even worse, if you have I've seen an investor who gives you advice, he invests, and all of a sudden they start telling you how to run your business. I've seen that before, and it's like, excuse me, if you knew how to run the business, you'd be running the business and not just as an investor. I don't know if you've seen that before, but it's pretty crazy.
Well, I wanted exactly to touch on that, like we're talking about getting funding, but exactly what you said, you should watch out who you get that money for. You should probably not have investors on the board also that have divesting interests on what's actually happening, right? When you build a cannabis company, it's not easy money. It's a lot of hard work. Scaling up takes a lot of time to be done properly. So it's very important to find the right people to put on the bus before you're actually driving that bus. And one thing that we've learned is, you know, to get the 40 investor to start Origin Nature, there was over 400 meeting, right? So every no gets you closer to that yes. For every 9 person you see, you're going to find the right one. But do not haste in getting money. Do not haste in, you know, most people that don't understand cannabis are going to try to push you to do absolutely everything. Pre-rolls, cannabis 2.0, just expand, spread your resources.
Psychedelics, why not psychedelics too? Whatever, mushrooms, let's do it.
And that will kill your business. So get the right people on board before you drive the bus and get it to the right place. Everybody needs to be aligned, so don't just rush into getting money.
And just from a perspective of seeing a bunch of different scenarios, you know, you got to really understand your investor and their motivation. That's the key thing, is their motivation. Are they out there? Yeah. Are they there to make money? Yes. But are they there to make money in the short term or the long term? And how much are they going to try to influence you to change your plan? And how much influence do they have over your plan? So you just got to be careful with investors, because if you don't play it right, they're going to end up being claim filers.
And further to this point, riding the bus, it's like he's going to hijack the bus.
Right.
You just invited him on a seat on the bus. Next thing you know, he's kicking you out and he's driving your bus, to use that analogy. But we're going to open up to questions in one moment, so hopefully some people have some questions. I see some people looking over there. One last couple quick bullet thoughts on international markets that either you're scaling to currently or that you're hopeful for to scale to one day. I met someone earlier that's waiting for Mexico to open up, and he's like, Mexico is going to be so huge. I'm like, yeah, keep waiting. But yeah, maybe one day, but maybe something a little closer that's actually happening faster, or that you're doing right now. Any thoughts on countries?
I'll kick it off with Thailand. Seeing Thailand really explode, something I've been learning about in the last couple of days is just exponentially the growth that we're seeing there. That excites me because it seems to be an interesting market to see.
Well, we should talk about that, because they've exploded and then imploded. Yeah. But that's a story for a different panel, but we can talk about that after.
That's an interesting thing. Sorry to jump over, but so I've met probably a dozen people that said, oh yeah, we're going to grow in our country and we're going to send it to Thailand.
Yeah.
But yet, you know, and there's more than a dozen. I was just being facetious, right? But yet the Thailand, you know, you don't know if Thailand comes back and says, hey, look, we're going to buy flower from within our own country first. Now what is that person who's just said, oh, I'm going to grow this whole truck full and I'm going to send it to Thailand?
They don't even have a lab. My friend Atia is setting up a laboratory there. There is no laboratory.
Why would you send weed to Thailand? Thailand can grow weed for $0.05 a gram. Right? A true nickel bag. They don't want your weed.
I need that sound bite to play like 12 times a day.
Next time someone says that to you, just be like, hold on, go talk to that guy.
I'll tell him.
For sure.
I'll be honest about it.
Yeah, it's like, that's a good one. Should I say that out loud? No, I won't say that. Fine. You want to open up to questions?
Sorry.
No. It's okay. You know what? I see some people with questions.
But you did.
You know, these people paid a lot of money to come to the show.
They did. They paid a lot of money to ask good questions. So who's got a question?
I see some hands over there.
There's one over here.
He only takes questions beside him, by the way. So you actually have to like go close.
Thank you, gentlemen. Considering customer confidence, quality, and service, which would you say is the most important and why when building a successful brand or company?
What were they again? The three things again? Customer service, quality.
Customer confidence, quality, and service, which would be the most important and why when you're attempting to build a successful brand or company?
I would go with customer confidence. So establishing a brand in cannabis is extremely hard. All that American way of pumping a lot of money in marketing does not work in cannabis. You're only one lot away from losing all your clients, in the sense that it's a recession. People want something that every time they pay for it, it's going to be the same effect. It's going to be what they paid for. It's not going to be one batch at 20%, the other batch at 28%. And I'm really talking dry flower, right? I'm not on the pharma side. So it is consumer confidence. For us to build a brand recognition, we had to be the #1 selling sativa for the last 4 years before it actually started to happen. There is absolutely no brand loyalty, as there shouldn't be at the beginning of an industry, because we saw how that went through. There's no celebrity brand in Canada that actually did good. The Snoop Dogg weed was terrible. So that you need to understand, you cannot sell weed with a lie. Consumers will not be tricked. So gaining their confidence that every time they go to that store and they buy that pouch or that bottle, it's the weed that they want, and it's going to be the same thing time and time again within a very reasonable cannabinoid range, is the hardest you can do by growing a life brand.
And don't go telling the booth out there who has the Snoop brand that someone on the panel said that. Just don't mention that. But yeah, celebrity thing doesn't work. And I agree with his answer. With everything else comes from consumer confidence, quality, customer, everything else. If confidence is there, all the rest falls in. Brian, what do you think?
Just going to say quality above all else. I mean,
consumer confidence.
That's it. I mean, if you can't produce a quality product time and again, it's over.
Consistency and standardization. I think that's the kind of key with those words. Question over here.
Question over here.
Over there.
Hi, thanks for being here. Two questions. Question number one, we have partners in growing in Colombia. What type of advice and what do you think would be the future of growing Colombia and actually exporting medical to Europe? Question number two, now that we finally opened up in Germany on social clubs starting July 1st in order to apply for the growing license, any advice in our personal interest as well that we now want to start a kind of a social club in Berlin? Any advice on that you guys can give?
If I could just quickly start it off by saying we need to stop calling them social clubs. I did a panel yesterday at 11. There's nothing social about these social clubs. We were joking they're called antisocial social clubs because they actually do not allow you to consume. They're really more like grow clubs. And yeah, the advice, you should have been to my panel yesterday. But Colombia, quick thought, they're actually finally doing something impressive. I saw the number, I think they did about $11 million. It took many, many years to get there, but I think they're finally doing something impressive. If they can get EU GMP certified product, and there's a few that do it, and they realize that their stuff is going to demand a lower price point, I think there's an opportunity there. Those are my thoughts.
And I've got clients in Colombia. We've got units in Colombia. The thing about Colombia is the stigma, you know, the history, the culture, Colombia could really break out by exploiting. Hey, you know, this is the jungle grown. This is from the Mother Earth. You know, this is what's been around for years and years.
Rainforest.
And years. Yeah, the rainforest, everything. I mean, so I think it's a lot of branding and bringing something different to the table. And I think that's something that you know, Thailand, you know, Australia, all these places, Germany, you know, it's funny because people want to export everywhere and everything, you know, but you know, they're making the same strains. You know, it's like,
if you like Colombian coffee, where do you get a load of Colombian cannabis?
Yeah, right.
Right, Colombia, the smart man's 8-ball.
All the C letters I noticed, they're very big on everything with the letter C.
But you really have a good opportunity in Colombia, especially, you know, the clients I have down there, is to really, like Humboldt County in California, you know, they've got the brand there because, hey, we're the guy, you know, OGs of weed in the U.S. Colombia's the OG of weed in the world, you know, so.
And I would answer to the social club, we're really gonna have to build a very strong business model to be able to design that operation and design that facility to execute on that, mainly because of your not-for-profit requirement, at least for now. We'll want to make sure that the money that you have, we put it to the best use possible to be able to produce consistently for your members so that you don't risk them jumping to another club. Because the way I see it is you're going to want to retain those members forever so that you can keep that revenue from them, and there's going to be a way to design and build that facility to be able to keep it as operationally efficient and keep your costs low so that you can provide really cost-effective product to your members to keep them.
Yeah, and Alex, you had a super quick point before.
Yeah, so for the cannabis clubs, for me, I think it's a legalization that's kind of broken. It's going to change for sure. The reality of the fact is, you know, I explained greenhouse weed and outdoor weed is not consistent. It's not necessarily going to meet regulations, not necessarily be able to build a brand on it. The reality of the fact is Germany does not have the power grid to supply indoor cultivation of cannabis. It's just not possible with the power you guys have. We barely have enough, and we're the #1 supplier, right? So what's going to happen is once you can't meet demand of proper cannabis, you're going to promote the black market if you don't help it. So I will build a very small facility. 300 kg can be run by 200 meter of canopy flowering space, right? And gear up to bring in imports. Of course, the imports are going to come in because you're going to need to supply all that demand. So it's unrealistic. Like, honestly, guys, there's at least 200 tons of consumption probably in Germany alone. Quebec is 300 tons per year with the black market.
By the way, Poland has the lowest cost of electricity in the Europe. So I don't know if there's any Polish people here, but I think you have an advantage. Sorry, go ahead. Question.
So say someone would have a relatively successful business that they built from nothing, but they think that they probably need some advice to get it beyond that point, and they're thinking maybe of an advisory board. Like, what would be some of the maybe unwritten rules of engaging someone to say, hey, would you be maybe interested in that?
Well, first of all, I think advisory boards are one of the most important things. I'm a huge fan of advisory boards. I sit on a few and always recommend that. I mean, to give you tips, I think it's a long conversation. I don't know if anyone wants to throw a few tips, but you're welcome to come see us after. I'm happy to kind of give you some thoughts on that because I have like a 40-minute keynote on advisory boards. Sorry.
Yeah, just carefully, because I know you're a consultant, but he's a well-established consultant. So ask around. I used to be a consultant, not in this space, but years ago. Ask around, ask for, if you're going to go the consultant route, having consultants give you input and helping you to steer decisions is very good, but ask around, make sure that they have. I met somebody yesterday who was a car salesman, like a year ago now.
You know, you actually just remind me, last year someone asked me about the importance of advisors, and what I told them is make sure your consultant, your advisor actually has done it. So many people are consultants and advisors who have never actually done those things they're consulting and advising on. So like make sure they've actually successfully done it. People are like, oh, I've done this. Was that successful? Oh no, this is the reason it wasn't successful. Like, okay, I don't care. Do you have any successes? No? Wrong person. Sorry. Next.
Last one.
Thank you guys so much. Nima Vesa here. Quick question. Pivot off of what Alex you said earlier.
Alex or Alex?
The French one or the Canadian?
French. Oh, I mentioned both French. French. All right, but this applied.
The middle name is
I would
Alex.
love to hear any answer from anyone here. You mentioned something very quickly, which is try to convince your investor or enable, like, not have them on your board. That's one of the biggest things I always see. Anytime you're taking money, they almost always want at least a board seat. Right. How have you ever seen it successfully convince an investor?
Most investors actually want to have a seat on the board. When you said how don't let them have a seat on the board, I was going to say that's a very hard thing to say. Real investors are like, they don't trust anyone and they want a seat on the board.
But isn't there a percentage, you know, like, hey, look, if they're going to throw 40% in,
Right.
you know, but if they're going to put in, hey, here's $2,000, I want a seat on your board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a hike, guy.
And that's what we mean by choose your money carefully. If someone's going to be giving you that much money to be sitting on the board, you want that person to have the proper qualification and share the passion and the value. When I say we build a cannabis business and we do 1.5 mil dividend in 18 months, if that's the vision forever, it's going to be hard for us to scale up. At some point, we can't be paying gigantic dividend and scaling up at the same time. So that's where the vision needs to be understood. You know, also, you know, do you want to build a business that's going to be a legacy that's going to live on after you're done with it, or sell it?
Have you ever heard of an instance where an investor was like, I don't need the board seat?
Unfortunately, I'm not the most well-versed. You know, my professional career is mostly cannabis. Before that, I didn't really go to school, so I'm not the best one to answer that question.
But I will point out, I think it's okay for them to have a seat at the table, but as long as it's a seat and nothing more than that, I think it's all around majority. Boards made up of 5 people, 7 people. As long as there's less of investors versus actual business people on there, I think you're okay. But yeah, having a seat at the table, I think is okay. So they know what's going on and they feel comfortable. And hey, sometimes you actually need more money from those investors. They're the easiest people to get more money from. So if they know what's going on and they feel comfortable, they're the most likely to re-up and add more money, which is kind of...
But what's that percentage? What's that percentage where you go back to somebody who wants to invest and you say, well, if you give 20% or whatever, what's the percentage to get them a board?
Good point. I think 20%, if you have anything less than 20%, you can't even ask them for a board seat. I think if you have at least 20% invested, you can actually request. But if you're like 5%, I don't know, unless you're awesome and they really like you, sometimes people, that's actually a quick point. Having a strategic investor, sometimes it's not even about the money. Honestly, this might sound crazy to say at a business conference, the money is not the hard part. I swear to you, if you have a really good business and you have really talented people, lots of people will give you money. It's about taking the smart money and having strategic investors that will do more for you than just give you money. Banks will give you money. Well, not if you're in cannabis, but anyways.
They do.
Yeah, no, they could. And internationally, we'll see what happens. But, you know, this is the end of the show. And yeah, really awesome. So shout out to Ngayo and Alex Rogers and Jesse and Noel and all the awesome people that put.
And shout out to Alex and George and John and Brian.
Thank you.
Fantastic. That concludes the 2024 International Cannabis Business Conference Berlin Panel Conference Series. We will see you in Slovenia in September. We will see you back here in Berlin in 2025. April, it's on the back of the program there. April 29th and 30th next year, back here in Berlin. Also look for us in Brussels, look for us in Slovenia, look for us in Barcelona. Wherever there's a need for cannabis business, the ICBC will be there. Shout out to Alex Rogers, shout out to Noel, Jesse, Randy, the whole AV team, Lisa, Emma, Leon, Mike. I got to name all the guys. I can't remember everybody. That's enough for now. My name is Ngaio Bilam, and we will see you next time. Cheers.